This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gab-fed show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. You have the code into the machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you never stood for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Welcome to Veteran Talk with Magic Mike, where what's important to you is important to us. Let's talk. I'm your host, Magic Mike, and today we're diving deep into something close to my heart. How sharing your story and getting behind the mic can be a powerful form of rehabilitation. Whether you're fresh out of service, years into civilian life.
20 years. It's been 20 years since we saw each other in Iraq. And he looks older in person.
Now, we're not all poets or motivational speakers, but you'd be amazed at how therapeutic it can be just to talk. One thing I've learned is that every story has value. Doesn't matter if you were on the front lines or behind a desk. Your experience is worth sharing, and trust me, somebody out there needs to hear it. Broadcasting gives us a way to say, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I've been through. It bridges gaps, builds community, and creates new purpose.
Man, we're here on Veterans Talk. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, that was my bad. I was trying to play our intro thing and see I screwed up. So I was trying to play this. Okay. And then instead I played this.
That they don't know what they're doing.
Okay, so I just skipped the button. That's it. Magic Mike, how are you?
Good, man. How's it going with you?
Oh, you know, I'm super excited. Super nervous too. This will be our first off-grid remote. Like we're using everything of ours.
Wow. Yeah, it's
a studio and everything.
It's been a long week. We're going to have a short show for you today. We have a special guest today, Farron Dozier, who served in the United States Army 24 years, has his own podcast and show as well. But 4th of July coming up tomorrow, you know, fireworks. So it's going to be beautiful weather on the East Coast. Middle of the country is going to be a little bit rainy in the West Coast.
The question is, what are you doing for 4th of July?
Just relaxing, man. You know, that's what I do every 4th of July, relax. But yeah, there's little parades going on here or there. I might try and check out one or something like that.
That's the biggest thing that I love about 4th of July. And let me be the first to say, I said it this morning, I want to say it again. All right. Don't be a snitch. If somebody's firing up firecrackers and it's illegal somewhere, you know what? Don't disturb somebody's peace just because your peace is disturbed. All right. Adapt and overcome. You know, think about what your parents would have said. Your parents would have said, hey, you know, suck it up. You know, live low. Now, I get it that a lot of people have pets. Let me suggest that you get some, what is it? It's like dog treats. It's marijuana dog treats.
Yeah, it's like a dog treat for calming. There's even a spray, a lavender spray you can spray on your dog, you know, to calm them down. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, for 4th of July. Yeah, if you have pets, bring them inside. Don't leave them outside. They will find a way out. It's you know, a lot of pets, they go crazy over fireworks and stuff. Last year, found a dog.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it walked right up to us, and we housed it for a couple of days, try to find its owner and stuff, and post on Facebook and nothing. So we took it to the humane
Okay.
shelter, so the no kill shelter, and cute little doggy. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely difficult for pets. Yeah, 4th of July, the big the big beautiful bill. I hate calling it that, but the bill that
I know it's such a stupid name.
I know. I hate them calling that as well. But anyways, it passed. It's supposed to be signed into law tomorrow on the president's desk. So there's a lot of good things in there. It really is. People, whether
There's so many people so upset with that. And what I tried to do this morning was, instead of griping one way or another, I was trying to explain to people that the biggest thing with this cut with the like Social Security and all that stuff is they're not increasing Social Security employment. Like, they're not processing applications. They're just putting a pause on it. It's not
even that. It's not even that, H Train. What they're doing is they're going back and reviewing and saying, hey, this guy has been on Social Security for 15 years. What is his problem again? He's scared to go to work. But get your ass out there and get a job. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of illegal immigrants that are taking and getting Social Security because of, whatever be it. And everybody's like, well, how can that be? How can they get Social Security? And it's not Social Security, it's Medicare and Medicaid, right? So they come here and they don't have the ability to have insurance. So they have to be insured because it's the law, Obamacare, that was implemented into law and stuff. So they have to have insurance. So they apply for this Medicare and Medicaid because they are now unemployable, right? So they get the Medicare and Medicaid, and it comes out of our pockets. So they're out there working under the table, if you will, construction jobs or whatever be it, and they're getting paid under the table. So there's no checks and balances for that. So that's just one part of it, though. The other part of it, is obviously the taxes. No more taxes on Social Security. No more taxes on tips, which I think is great, because I think if a person makes a tip, that's their money. They should be able to keep it. They're already getting taxed for their wages. Why should they get taxed for that as well?
And in the bill, it says that the tax on wages, like, you're not even going to see that until the end of the year, because you're going to have to fill out a W-2, which, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the same thing as a 1099.
No, W-2 means you're paying. That means your organization is your 1099 means you're a contractor. Okay. So W-2 means you're actually employed by them, and they pay. They take out of your paycheck the FICA and Social Security and whatever else they take out. So the local taxes and stuff like that. So that's the W-2 portion of it. The 1099 means that you're not getting any of that. It means it's your responsibility to claim the taxes. It's your responsibility to do it. So yeah, so there, and it's like any Uber driver. Great example. An Uber driver has a 1099, right? They're not employed by Uber. They're a contractor for Uber, or Uber Eats or Lyft or any of those other subcontractors. But I looked at it and read through it a little bit. There's some good stuff in there. One thing I wish was in there was the Major Richest Star Act, right? Right. We still need to push for that and try to get that on the agenda, the Major Richest Star Act. But
I was wondering, why wasn't it on this bill?
There's everybody's scared, because it comes with a price tag, right? So anytime something comes with a price tag and it's pushed through as a bill, there's going to be some differences there. Where are we going to find this money at? And then you had, this big, beautiful bill, as they call it, that has been all over the news that everybody's aware of. So it kind of detracts from the actual Major Richest Star Act, whereas before we didn't really have anything going, right? The other thing in the news is the alligator Alcatraz down there in Florida. So I grew up, those of you knew, I grew up in Miami, and where that airport is, that airport's been abandoned. It was used for many years for training flights for the school and stuff like that. There was a flight school there. So ironically, the 9/11 hijackers, that hijacked the airplanes, that's where they went to school, and they would do touch and goes there. They do practice landings and practice takeoffs and touch and goes and all that out there. So no more of that. So that airport is now become alligator Alcatraz. They talk about it. It's a holding detention facility for illegal immigrants while they're being processed through the system. Make no mistake about it, though. It's out in the middle of the Everglades. There's the only thing around there is the Miccosukee Indian tribe, and the Seminole tribe has a couple houses out there. But other than that, there's nothing but alligators and pythons. But the facilities out there are amazing. They're huge, FEMA trailers, I guess you might say, and stuff, and tents and air conditioned and food. And trust me, they're getting taken care of there. It's not, everybody's making it Alcatraz. Alcatraz is bad. The reason they're calling it Alcatraz is, again, because there's nothing around there. And if they do escape, the only thing they're going to escape to is the Everglades, where alligators and pythons are. So it's kind of like a mini Alcatraz.
Now, I've saw several TikToks today of people living in that area of Florida that are really upset, that says that this whole Alcatraz, which I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, but the thing,
here's up the wildlife and stuff.
Well, here's the thing. They weren't worried about the wildlife, and we were out there shooting guns and putting lead in out there, because that's what we used to do back in the day. We'd go out there or shoot guns and stuff like that. They weren't concerned then. They weren't concerned when the airport was running up and down cargoes. So cargoes come out, a lot of cargo airplanes and stuff like that that can't fly into Miami International Airport would land there, and then the cargo trucks would unload and stuff like that. So it's called the Dade Collier. Those are two counties, Miami-Dade County and Collier County, and it's right on the border of there. And they call it the Dade Collier Airport. But for many years it was shut down, and it was only used for those touch and goes. I patrolled out there when I worked for the Miccosukee law enforcement. When I was a law enforcement officer down there, and for the Miccosukee Police Department, I patrolled out there, and there's really nothing out there. I mean, there's nothing out there. So they didn't care about the 400 tons of trash that's out there, or the 400 tons of concrete that was poured out there to make that airport, right? They didn't care about that. But now all of a sudden that we're using the facility, they care about it. And I just think it's a political stunt, and I think it's stupid. I think we're not overloading our jails to where real criminals need to go. We're not overloading, our local sheriff's departments and stuff like that. And I think, in all, it's a processing center to process illegal immigrants that are on their way back to their country. Period. I look at it as why, somebody asked me, they said, well, we got to take care of everybody. I said, my mother was a legal immigrant. My grandparents were legal immigrants. They came here legally, made a better way for themselves. My mother, my mother never became a United States citizen. She was just here, a legal immigrant, until the day she died. Mm-hmm. Had a permanent visa card, because her kids and her husband and everybody were Americans. But my mother never became a U.S. citizen. I don't know why. I never asked her, but she never did. She loved this country. She was more patriotic with this country she was her country she was from. But I just, I don't understand the way the world's working and the way everybody's working against. And it's like, look, this is America, right? And we were founded on immigrants. We were founded on legal immigrants, right? When the boatloads came to Ellis Island from Italy and Germany and France and everywhere else, right? They still had to go through a processing center, and they went through that process. They didn't just get off a boat and go, oh, we're here. No, they were signed in, they were documented, and they became documented, immigrants, if you will. They didn't just cross a border, and then there's the argument, well, this isn't our country to begin with. We stole it from, it's like, come on. Like, geez, you know what? Stop, really stop. Let's just stop with all the here and there and everywhere else. It's just dumb. So big breath, deep breath in. So, 4th of July tomorrow, there's people that are going to protest the 4th of July. Really? You live in one of the greatest countries in the world.
But there's people that protest the flag every single day. There's people that protest.
They want to protest the flag. They want to protest everything about the America that they hate, that they don't stand for and stuff. That's fine. There's other countries out there that you're more than welcome to go to.
Right.
More than welcome to go to.
Right.
Right. And England would have you, Australia have you and stuff. Oh no, that's right. They're closing their doors now to immigration. They're doing the same thing that we're doing. But a great case is, France. France is riddled with crime right now. They have so many problems with immigration. England, same thing, riddled with crime, so many problems with immigration, right? They have all these people come from all over, and they were like, yeah, come for so many years. Mm-hmm. Now they have nothing but problems, right? And it's difficult, and I'm not saying one way is right, one way is wrong, but I'm saying legal immigration is perfectly okay. If you want to come to America, state your case, be here legally, and go about it. But don't come to this country. Roosevelt said it over and over. I say this. Roosevelt said it. He said, "Give us your sick, give us your tired, give us your poor. We'll take them all, but don't think that we're going to conform to your way of life. You're here in America." right? We're Christian. You want to, you want to do your religion. That's fine, but we're not going to conform to you. Don't expect us to change America's way of life for you, right? And I think that that's one of the biggest, things that's going on. We're gonna
go ahead. I didn't mean. Go ahead. You got a minute.
France has, Zaya said the French have tons of crime. Yeah, absolutely. Canada does too. All those people that open their borders and go, yeah, we'll take everybody, has tons of crime. And what they're doing is an injustice to the actual themselves. Somebody said to me one time, it was so stupid. If you get rid of all the illegal immigrants, who's going to build your houses? Who's going to pick your fruits and vegetables? Well, maybe we'll stop having some lazy Americans that sit around. I know 17 of them right now that collect Social Security because they say, oh, I have mental health issues. Really? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong. You're upset because you were adopted and your mom didn't tell you were adopted until you were 22. So now all of a sudden you have mental health issues. Get off the couch and go get a job. You know what I mean? Listen, it's seriously, I never wanted to work at Burger King, but when I was 14 years old, I got a job at Burger King. I worked there until I went away to the Army, right? Mm-hmm. If push came to shove and I didn't have any money right now, guess what? I'd be going back to Burger King working.
I'd be picking up dog poop. Yeah,
exactly. I'd do whatever I need to do. So, the whole thing about, who's going to pick your fruits and vegetables? I guess what? There's going to be some lazy people getting off the couch, off of Social Security.
I'm telling you, people think I'm nuts. You go to somebody's house that has a dog, you tell them $20, I will pick up your dog poop every week. You're going to get the $20. How long does it take you to pick up poop? Maybe 20, 30 minutes max, right?
I got a doggy do, which is like a septic tank that I built. I go out there with a little thing, put it in the bucket, water, down it goes.
I'm telling you, you won't believe how many people would pay you to do that. Okay. It's just an understatement, but we got to go on break. And before we go on break, we're going to play Die Tired, so-called Complex. And then one of the reasons why we're doing that is because this Friday night at 12:01, their brand new album EP song comes out. Stick with us. Don't go away. We'll share with you what song that is. You're listening to Veterans Talk right here on MBR.
MBR Radio.
Now, am I thinking fine? How do you feel about the way I'm feeling? 'Cause I'm not sure I'm feeling alright. What do you
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
The web at mbradio.com.
Hold on, things are dizzy, spinning rapidly. To miss another beat is such a tragedy. Now this moment feels like all eternity. It should feel so comfortable. It's all in the secrets of the open hearts club. Oh, tear it down, there is no need to scream and shout. When everything seems gray, seek reflection now. A peace of mind should not include deception's help. It should feel so comfortable. All eyes stare into the scene, leaving bad taste in our memories. How can we all find change? It's all in the secrets of the open hearts club.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
The web at mbradio.com.
Hey, and we're back here with yours truly, DJ Magic Mike and H Train on the radio station, Military Broadcast Radio, Veterans Talk.
And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, today's interview of the week.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
What's going on, Farron?
That intro, that's what's going on.
How's it going? How's it going, brother?
Oh my God. As soon as I heard him, I start cracking up.
Hey,
How
listen,
are you, brother?
everybody who watches my show and listens to me and, text messages and writes me emails and stuff, everybody knows that, the one thing that keeps me going every day, even when I was in Iraq and serving abroad and everything, is that that one thing. I hate to say it, it's just one thing, and that's his truly, the creator, the great and almighty. And so I watch your podcast and I love your shows and I love your mental health shows and stuff like that. So it's truly an honor to have you on here. If you guys are not watching his podcast, he's on Instagram. You have a couple books, right?
Yeah, a couple of books. Still embracing that life.
What are you doing with
Where
MBR?
do you find the time at? That's what I want to know, where he finds the time at.
I live it every day, so it's nothing that's out of the ordinary for me. It's just wherever I show up.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know about you, but tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you served in the United States Army. Go Army, beat Navy. You served in the United States Army 20 plus years.
Yeah,
so,
24.
And what brought you into broadcasting? What brought you into, just doing what you do?
All the things that I talk about, mainly at the point of me finding Blog Talk Radio in 2009, was literally the suicide ideations, the depression, the anxiety. I was living in this dire strait of life is over. And maybe back then, being a huge sports fan, my friends, we used to go to the bar and hang out like Cheers. Like they knew us when we came through the door, what the food to order. But all of that started to go away. And my friends saw me kind of like, to myself. And it's like, man, you need to go and do something. I didn't think about depression. It's like, you need to go do something. And so I found Blog Talk Radio, created a show with the guy who was in Boston 3 hours ahead of me. And he mainly did all the talking. I just talked trash. And living into that next episode weekly kept me alive, man. Literally.
I know what you mean, because we all have like life drama and stuff like that. And I found when the life drama was starting and I stopped broadcasting, I could tell a huge difference in me. I could tell a huge difference. And like at first I was depressed, and then I started getting mad, and I started focusing more on, all right, well, we're going to do it this way. If I can't do a show, blah, 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 then, I'm going to broadcast these guys. So I started doing it, and I noticed that broadcasting, speaking, it really does help you. It really does.
Yeah, everybody finds their thing. Music therapy, there's a lot of things. I mean, there's all kind of things out there that people gravitate to. And again, for me, it wasn't even about becoming a podcaster. It was really just trying to figure out how to stay alive. And that hobby literally became, or that therapy session that I figured out became a hobby and became this whole platform of what I get to talk about and share from all different aspects of my life. And so you see the different topics because those are the things that I've either experienced. Like I don't talk about anything that I can't relate to or if I've experienced. So at the core of as human beings, we all have a relatedness, right? If we really stop trying to understand one another as veterans, so civilians don't understand me. That's one of our conversations. I don't understand me. So then why would I pressure you to understand me, right? But how do we communicate? How do we find a way to have a harmonious relatedness conversation? And internet radio became one of those ways of us to find a voice.
Yeah, now I'm going to let Mike ask a question because I don't want to take all the steam or whatever. But,
so I'll share my story with you. And it's something that's near, mental health is near and dear to my heart. And one of the things that bothered me was I had 2 appointments. So I have every 2 weeks a counselor appointment, right? So social work services or he's just a counselor, like a whatever from the VA. Great guy, he's a Navy guy. And on 1 week he just didn't show up. I'm sitting there on the call. I'm like, he doesn't show up. We do what do you call that? Tele.
Yeah.
And he didn't show up. And then a couple days later, I got a letter from the VA saying it was canceled. I worked at the VA before. I know how it goes. Not a big deal. So then 2 weeks later was my other appointment, which was last week, Thursday. Same thing. I'm there, 3:20, nothing. I call the VA. They're like, well, it shows that he's busy. So let me write him an email or a little message. They write him a message. It comes back busy. I finally voiced my opinion. I said, listen, when you reschedule a CT scan, when you reschedule blood draw, right? That's one thing. When you cancel it, it's one thing. But when it comes to mental health, that's something you can't mess around with, right? Because seriously, mental health is all the way across the board supposed to be the key focal point, if you will, right? To everything. It's how we sleep. It's how we eat. Eating habits are formed, sleeping habits are formed, and so on and so forth. So I asked for a patient advocate to give me a call back, and they kind of gave me oh, I'm so sorry. I said, well, I don't want sorry, and I don't want excuses. I would like an explanation. Because I feel, especially mental health wise, I feel disvalued, right? I feel like, well, I guess I'm not that important to them, that they can't even call me and say, hey, listen, something came up. Your counselor had a family emergency, or he's really sick, or, his father passed, whatever be it. Just give me an explanation, not an excuse, but an explanation, so that then I can say, I got it. But when you sit there and you just disvalue and not even an explanation of why, just kind of like, nah, don't need to. You're not that important. Don't need it. Right. It's kind of upsetting, if you will. Right. Yeah. So yeah, mental health is something so important. What do you, read in my Bible, meditation? Those are my bugaboos. Those are my things that I do. But what is something that you think has helped you?
To be honest, the biggest thing that helped me, man, is unraveling those stories in my head. When you look at the Bible, people have their opinions about it. When you look at the Bible, the gospel is about renewing your heart, repenting and renewing your heart and changing the way you think. And that's all Christ showed us, is how to treat ourselves and how to treat people. And when I started doing that work, I didn't find that in the Bible though first. Now, I didn't get that. I got that from personal development courses that I paid for out of my own pocket before I went to the VA, because I had the opinions of other people about the VA, right? And I didn't fit in there. So I had to find something. My mom's prayers put something in the space, and I took that education, man. And that's what started me in that first class. Just started to unravel the stories. We make up so many stories. We have so much evidence and so much proof of the disappointment and the shame and the embarrassment. And then we forget as a child where that stuff came from. And then we live from it as an adult.
Right.
Right.
It's a vicious cycle.
Right. And that was the conversation that freed me up, was called the vicious circle. And once I discovered of what I made it mean and what happened to me, they weren't the same thing.
Yeah, there's a famous Instagram and podcaster and stuff and social media that I followed for a long time, and he was making music, and I followed him way before he became famous, and then he came out with a song, what it means to be a man, and it's so true, and he made it with I feel like I'm getting old and my memory's getting bad, but he made it with Hootie and the Blowfish, the lead singer from Hootie and the Blowfish, who turned country.
Yeah.
And
Dax.
Dax. You have to talk about Dax, right? So Dax made this song, and I heard it when he first came out with it many, many, many years before he got, it became an actual song. I don't want to say actual song, but before it became famous. And it's true. And he says, he said, it will become a vicious circle, and your son will be just like you, right? So it's just a circle of bad habits, if you will, over mental health issues, drinking, drugs, whatever be it. Yeah. And you want to stop that vicious cycle. You want to try to do better. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, like you said, is the greatest book of all times. We read it, and a lot of people read it like a book. And I think that's where they make their mistakes, right? Yeah. It's different books in there. Right. And Exodus might not, be to you. So I had found this today, and I wanted to read it. It was, it just popped up, and it was Romans 12:19. And it's so true. Romans 12:19 says, do not have revenge in your heart. God's going to take care of that. Trust me. God's going to take care of that. He's got it. He knows what people have done you wrong. because when you have that, that's an emotion that just occupies a space that you don't need.
Yeah.
So give it to him. Let him occupy that, let him have that control, and he'll take care of it. For every tear that you've shed for something that somebody that's done you wrong,
Yeah.
He's got that body count. He's got it. So don't worry about it. And it's right. And I watched one of your podcasts where the guy says, he says, not everything fits to other people, right? So as Christians, we're supposed to go out and reveal the word or teach the word, right? Yeah. But sometimes the words that we find useful or the scriptures that we find useful might not pertain to somebody else.
Oh my God, exactly. Exactly.
So I think that was so powerful in one of your podcasts when he was talking about that. Again, we're talking with Dozier, who, by the way, is phenomenal. If you haven't watched his podcast,
man, thank you.
He's pretty powerful. Where do you hail from? I got to ask you that. Where are you from originally?
I'm in Kentucky. They call it Fontana, California. It's outside, about 65 miles outside of LA, going east, going toward the route to Vegas. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's hot. It's hot out there. Oh, yeah. I've been out there. It's hot. It's a different kind of heat.
I don't want to just brush off your scripture, right? That conversation is exactly what we're talking about. If when I discovered that how much I love Faron, right? Because I don't love Faron every day. So in the cognitive behavior education of the mental health, it talks about how much do you love Faron. Don't keep saying I don't love Faron, I don't love people, I don't love women. How much do you love Faron first? And I was like, oh, well, I love myself about 80%. Well, then you got to stop saying you don't love yourself. And just changing my language, how I talk to myself, allowed me to have another space. Well, then if I love myself 80% and I'm supposed to love people with the same measure that I love myself, then I'm not going to love you 100%. So how much do I love you as a person? But there's still a reflection of me. So that 20% that I don't love about myself, guess what? I'm using that as a shield in front of me when I talk to people, and you better not speak to that 20%. Because if you do, then I'm going to defend myself in that 20%. But as you said, if I love myself, I'm not, even the 80% that I love myself, I still don't want to hurt you. I still don't want to talk crazy to you. And that's that scripture saying to me, if I know that I'm dealing with all the stuff that I dealt with in my first 40 years of my life, how can I hold that against someone else who is probably dealing with something on a whole nother level or similar to mine? I'm not going to react to you. I'm going to listen to you from another way that gives you some compassion, because I have compassion for myself finally.
That's the key right there. Compassion for yourself and others. It's being in a relationship and saying to that loved one, honey, I don't feel loved. And them going, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Invalidated. Your feelings are not valid. Right. I mean, you're like, what? A normal reaction for somebody who has compassion for themselves, not only themselves, but also you, because remember, it always starts with us, is, honey, I don't feel loved. Baby, I am so sorry. What's going on?
Yes.
You just don't talk sweet to me. Honey, that's not my intention, honey. I love you. Look at me. I love you. Right. So that's the compassion, right? You have compassion for yourself. So you're coming to your loved one and saying, hey, the things aren't feeling right. And they have compassion towards you because they have compassion for themselves as well. And they're saying, I'm sorry you don't feel. What can we do to fix it? Right. It doesn't become a pointing game. And that's just society as a whole. Right. So the person that cuts you off, right, they're having a bad day. They're flipping you off. They're going crazy. Listen, they've already started having a bad day before they even cut you off, before they even flipped you off, before they start cursing at you. They were having a bad day.
They could be on the way to the hospital to get a loved one. Like, you have no idea what's going on in that car, right? You have no clue. And
hey guys, so I don't mean to cut you off. Okay?
But
one of the reasons why Farron came on here is because we need to talk about something serious. We need to talk about single state trait. Oh shit! I got it. I finally pronounced it right.
So that was the other thing. So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. So I grew up in Miami, Florida. One of my dear, loving teachers, probably one of the best teachers I ever had. passed away of sickle cell.
Oh wow.
He was it was kept a secret from us in senior high. He was out a couple times, came back out a couple times. He then was passed away, and they told us that he was diagnosed with sickle cell many years ago and was suffering from different ailments and stuff, and had passed away.
Sure.
One of the best dang teachers I had, African American Black gentleman, but he told me something that stuck with me my whole entire life. He said, "Do the right thing even when nobody's looking."
Yeah,
That
integrity.
was powerful for me. Powerful.
That's integrity.
So yeah, please let's talk about that, please.
Again, thank you for allowing me to be on your show, man. I really appreciate both of you for this time to share. The other conversation is just as important. I call that my experience of life, but this part of the topic of what I share from is my activity of life. And as he has up on the screen here, this NFL football player from the Denver Broncos a couple of years back passed away from sickle cell trait and a rare kidney cancer called RMC. And one of the things I just wanted to point out today, even around Denver is one of, I won't say it's the worst place, but it's one of the most challenging locations on the planet for us as sickle cell trait carriers to live in, to dwell in, to even sometimes play sports in. And this guy here, Ronnie, played for the Broncos, championship, everything. You would think he had the best doctors on the planet, being in NFL. And however, inside his body was breaking down, and cancer was forming, and he died. And by the time they found it, he was already at stage 4. And after that post there, he only lived a couple of more days. And so the sickle cell trait conversation is so important, like your teacher that has sickle cell. That's another conversation. But sickle cell trait itself has its own awareness, education, and preventive conversations. And a lot of people have been taught or told that it's benign. You should have no problem. Just make sure you don't make another person because you have a baby with sickle cell disease. That's what's been mostly taught for years before I was born. But today, with cases like his and myself, they're starting to pay attention and acknowledge even that sickle cell trait is not benign because it is causing health complications for people, not just in Denver, but across the country, because they're not aware of the symptoms or what the body can react to if you're exercising, overexert yourself, dehydration, illness, things like that can cause that red blood cell to mutate. And when it mutates, it loses oxygen to the body. And then the lack of oxygen to those muscles and to the body is where pain can happen, or those muscles break down, the enzymes, the toxins in the muscles. There's a whole rhabdomyolysis conversation connected to sickle cell trait that can lead to sudden death.
So to kind of break down sickle cell, and correct me if I'm wrong. This is my paramedic EMT.
Yeah. Let's go.
So sickle cells. So we have cells in the body, right? And they roll through your body, and your cells are going through your body and stuff like that. And the name sickle cell comes from the cells that turn into painful, not normal shapes, basically, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, they become not normal shapes, right? And it becomes painful, and it doesn't, like Dozier said, the oxygen is not being transported the way it needs to be through the blood, right, through the cells and stuff like that. And then there's the mutation of it, and there's different things that go along with it. It is something that strikes more women in African American and women, right? And we don't have it in grip yet. We don't have anything to. I mean, the research is just. I don't want to say non-existent, but it seems like it's slow.
Yeah, sickle cell has been documented to be around 5,000 plus years ago, predominantly African Americans, because of course, if you do understand it, it combats malaria. So that's how Africans survived during the malaria episode. So the body created this defective gene naturally to survive malaria. So if I got malaria, I have a 40% chance that I could survive malaria because those red blood cells only live 20 days. So I have 40% of my red blood cells that only live 20 days. When yours, normals, live 120 days. So mines die off quicker and come back because of what it would do if I got malaria. So the DNA automatically dies off quicker, comes back. However, in certain circumstances, exercising, as I mentioned, high altitudes, places with low oxygen, when those cells are mutating and you're in that environment, you're not getting enough oxygen, which could cause a secondary health complication. So it does have a purpose. It combats malaria.
That's educational. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. I unfortunately I know too many cases of sickle cell, and like I said, it just seems like the research on it for it is just slow in learning, right? It's been around for thousands of years, and it seems like that our research is not evolved.
Well, it got discovered here in 1910, so it's not long ago that Western medicine discovered it, right? Yeah. In Chicago, from a guy that was from Grenada who went to the hospital, and the doctor did some blood work and saw his blood work. Hey, something's going on with your red blood cells. Oh, that's when they started looking at it. So it's not what you talk about, not long at all.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is sickle cell trait only affects one race right now, right? Or is it multiple races?
Yeah, African Americans were number one because of, again, for the malaria conversation.
Right.
But today we're all blended. Our bloodline is from all over the world, and so Hispanics are number two right now. We're number one.
All right, so blacks
number two.
Okay.
Listen, trust me, I did a 1, 2, 3 of me, and I was praying and crossed my fingers. They would come back to like Nigeria or something. So I was going to put down African American. It didn't come back.
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, I haven't got a test, and I'm like, I don't think I need a test because.
So here's the thing. So African Americans are number one. It's the Latin community is number two. But today in 2025, you could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, Asian descent because
it doesn't discriminate.
Your bloodline. If you don't know where your bloodline is from, if you haven't done the blood work to determine where your ancestors are from,
this isn't the same as Ancestry.com, right?
No, this is a blood test that you can do. Now there's tests that Ancestry can do to give you more of your DNA like that, yes. But there's a simple blood test that you can go to your doctor, the hemoglobin electrophoresis, take that blood test. It'll tell you if you have sickle cell trait, C trait. There's a couple that it does test for red blood cell conditions, but it also tests for cystic fibrosis, white blood cell issues. So that's what they do today for newborn screening. That's how they discover if babies have these type of blood disease, but it doesn't catch all of them. So you might have a red blood cell condition that test doesn't catch. So then you got to do more blood work if there's a suspicion that there's something going on with my blood counts or my blood work. It's not the easy conversation to have. And so most people look at it like, oh, he has the black gene. I'm thinking about doing a campaign, just going around the world, just having that one talk and maybe move the needle, because most people think that it's just a black gene. And unfortunately, DJ Mike, Magic Mike, the medical community has the same mind frame. And so it comes across as not important. But what tripped me out was I did a conference one time, and one of the doctors stood up in front of everybody and said, well, it's only 90 to 100,000 people. That's not a lot of people.
One is too many.
And I was like,
well, that's if you have empathy. But there's some doctors that don't really have empathy.
But there's other conditions like rhabdo. There's 200,000 people can experience rhabdo. So when he said that, it was like, you could hear the mentality. Well, it's not important to him because it's only 90 to 100,000. So what's the big deal? And so there's a lot of people in the medical community that were trained. Now we're talking about what's ingrained in our hearts, right? Now we're talking about the heart of people.
Compassion.
And so some of that stuff has been trained and passed on through generations that's not important. And so we don't worry about that. And if you got a history of families and your children are all grew up to be doctors, what do you think the focus is? It's not going to be a compassionate conversation for that conversation if it's been taught that it's not important.
Yeah.
So it's not personal to me, but it is a conversation that has to be addressed, because for like you say, for some people it is important. If one person, you know, if you have a rare diamond or a rare car or rare jewelry, you protect it, you take care of it. And that's how we are with our children, our family members. We're rare, so
you're supposed to take care of it. You know,
take care of it.
You know, it's in the Bible. You know, it talks about taking care of each other, and that's what, like you said, that's what Jesus preached, right? It was about taking care of yourself and others, and you know, the humankind.
I hate to interrupt. You hate to interrupt,
but you done it twice now.
Yeah, Mike's gonna punch me this time.
Watch this. No, I'm gonna do this right here. So, anyways, it's just you and I right now. Let me not do that. He'll get mad.
I appreciate you coming on, man. I really do. We're running out of time, and what we're gonna do?
What do we got? What do we get? Hey, what do we got going on now?
The tribute to the troops.
But we just talked about that. We said we were gonna hold off on that because 4th of July.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep talking. I'm sorry. See how that worked?
Hey, that's how you do when it's your show, huh?
Yeah. I just said, look, I'm gonna show you. I know I'm not crazy. He wrote me a text message. He said, tribute or not, and I wrote, no, I gotta go.
Oh,
so let's keep it rolling. I like this. It's not every day I get a good let me back up for a little. It's not every day I get a passionate talk show host on here. So interview. So there we go. We're gonna roll with it. Look at he doesn't even know what to say.
Hey, I'm here, ass.
I'm right here, man. I'm right here.
Go ahead, brother. Keep talking. Preach it.
No. It's beautiful. The questions that you ask are so important. And again, and I can't speak for all Black people, and I don't ever do that. However, when you deal with all the past issues of life and the sense of belonging and the fractures, we're people first, man.
Yeah,
it's the same.
I've always said this. I said, listen, if I cut you and you bleed any other color than red, we might have a problem. Other than that, we are all of one race, and that's a human race. I don't care if you're black, blue. Listen, in the Army, what was the first color they taught you?
Yeah,
green. Y'all are green. Ain't nobody here black. Ain't nobody here white. You're
the hell basic was you in? I learned blood. I learned red blood.
Yeah. So, but on a serious note, yeah, we're all and we are our brother's keepers, right? And it doesn't matter what. Listen, you know, to hear that the African American community suffers from this horrific disease, man, I would be honored to be the first white American doctor or white doctor to find a cure for it. Man, please, I might even be able to say the N-word after that. Bad joke. But listen, bad joke. But listen, seriously though, it's like, why would you? I just keep thinking about what you said when that doctor said that. How cold-hearted do you have to be to say something like that? One is too many. And think about the suffering. This young man was young. How old was he when he passed away?
Yeah, in the 30s, like young.
I mean, young. He had his whole entire life ahead of him.
Yeah.
You know, and this is not a disease where you go to sleep and you don't wake up. This is a disease that is painful.
Let me tell you about Ronnie. I'm on my prayer line 90% of the time, 5 days a week, right? So the prophet came on the prayer line and asked for prayer for that guy, for Ronnie. Now, we didn't, the dots wasn't connected. So we're all praying for him, and he was dealing with his condition, his health, and all that. He passes away. The prophet comes back on the prayer line and has another conversation about sharing that he passed away. And then he said his name. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I had seen that in the news. We were praying for Ronnie on the prayer line at my church because the prophet brought his name to the prayer line that morning. And the connection of that was like, wow, like you see.
But you don't know how you touch somebody with that.
You don't. You don't. You don't. And so the whole point of it is I'm not mad with the doctors who think that, because if that's, you know what, let's go back to what I had to do with my own mental health. I had to discover a new ideology, a new philosophy, and a new theology of who I was going to be at 40 years. I'm 55 now. So I've been at this for 15 years.
You my age.
Yeah, dealing with my mental health on a level that I've never dealt with.
When they say black don't crack, they ain't lying. You
Oh, they don't lie. This ain't no filter either, baby. This ain't no filter either.
Ooh, I need a filter.
But I had to go at 40 years old. I started this journey of I had to get another ideology, philosophy, and theology for who Faron was going to be at 40 when I discovered that all that stuff that I made up about myself wasn't the truth. That what I made up about my parents and my peers and even myself, it was my truth, but it wasn't the truth. And if it wasn't the truth, I had to go investigate then what was going on. And when I talked to my mom and dad, it was like a whole nother story. Then what story was I carrying?
Yeah, so you had to create everything kind of new.
But I had to give up the stories that I made up that were my truth. It's hard. It's challenging for a person to have to go back and look in time and say, "You mean that wasn't what that was?"
Right.
And take responsibility for that with no blame to no one, but not even blame yourself. Like, oh, that was miscommunication. That was the mindset of a child who then, if I look at that, well, a child has no perception, sense of time at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, even barely 12. So then how can I make myself blame myself for my thoughts as a child?
Yeah.
So when you start to do that work and challenge those thoughts up against something outside of how you think or feel, there's a sense of reality. There's a sense of transformation. There's a sense of peace that comes up. It's like, oh, wait a minute. If I made all that up, then what else did I make up? And that's what I've been working at. What else did I make up in my life that has me feel like I'm embarrassed, that I'm disappointed in myself, or I have shame? I wasn't born that way.
Real quick, talk about your podcast. If somebody wants to watch your podcast or check you out or whatever, do you have any? What's a good way to check you out? I guess I got you on my Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm blessed to be on MB Radio. To be a part of here on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. You can go to
Wednesdays.
4 p.m. Wednesdays at Farron Dozier Show, Farron Dozier Show. You can go there on Instagram. FarronD.com has everything that I'm up to. You can catch me there here on Wednesdays, and then I'm AM/FM radio in Inland Empire out here in Fontana, San Bernardino County on KCA Radio. That's AM/FM. I've been there since 2021, and so
making things happen.
I mean, pretty much the shows are the same. if they're pretty much tied in together, it's just one is on Wednesday and one is on Sunday. But I have the same types of conversations on both platforms. I mean,
what did you do in the Army? I never asked you that.
Oh, so I was a track vehicle repair, fuel handler, and truck driver.
That's operator level. It's not operator level. It's a transmission rebuild. It's operator level.
Yeah,
it's operator level.
So supply. I did supply. That was. I actually loved driving fuel though. I was a fuel handler.
Listen, they were chill. You go over there parking,
bro.
Hand them the nozzle.
Bro,
I mean, down, sign here.
I lived in that. I lived in that truck. I mean, I love to drive anyway. So like we'd be on log packs at like 9, 10, 11, midnight, 2 in the morning. Like who's up at those hours? But the stars, the stars. So that's where Trench Talk came from. Trench Talk came to me in basic training because we used to do foxholes still before they cut that out. And so we would be under the stars, guys from all over the world that you just meeting, talking about, life and where they came from. And something put that word in my heart, Trench Talk. And I carried it my whole career, man. And I never knew what it was going to become. And then when I started doing this talk show stuff, I wanted a military segment because that's how I was going to stay connected to my brothers and sisters. And I was like, well, I'll just name it Trench Talk. And
you're definitely doing God's work out there, man.
I appreciate you.
It's an honor to have you on the show. Anytime you want to be on my show, I'll make.
Same.
I'll bump H train.
And same with mine. You're more than welcome anytime to come in.
I appreciate it. Listen, I am honored to have you on the show. Love to do it again. You're listening to the one and only Dozier. He has his own show on MBR Radio on Wednesday at 3 o'clock or
4
o'clock. I apologize. At 4 o'clock. And is that Eastern time or
4 p.m. is Pacific time, 7
Pacific
o'clock.
time. So it's like 12 o'clock our time here on the East Coast.
7 o'clock.
So
You ain't
the
that
one and
far.
only. Listen, if you guys, I'm going to tell you this. I've watched his podcast. I've followed him. I've watched him. He's the real deal. If you're like me and you're having just one of those days, he's somebody who makes you feel a little better just for having known him, just for having listened to him. So he is the real deal. He's the one and only. Tune into his show on MBR on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time or 4 o'clock Pacific Time, PST, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And check out his shows, man. He's got some great guests on. He's got great talk. He's a great show host. So again, it's an honor to have you here, man.
Thank you.
Take it away. It's yours, man. This is your time. Your time now.
No, yeah. So again, I'm just grateful. Again, being on MB Radio has been important, a blessing, because this is my community. This is our community of veterans. And again, we deal with so much of our identity crisis. We deal with so much of life experiences, and we even label ourselves that separates us from the group, right? And so if we don't take care of ourselves, who's going to do it? We can't leave it to those systems, that have their own ideas, their own agendas. So the best way for us to work through this is together. And as brothers and sisters, it doesn't matter what branch, what age, what color. When you say you served as a veteran, we're instantly family.
I got you.
Connected.
Yep, 100%.
And
absolutely.
So that's what I love about this platform. That's why I'm blessed to be able to have that on here. And I will continue to have this here as long as they accept me and accept my conversations.
Hey, well, we appreciate it. Thank you so much again for being on the show. H-Train, you got anything? Because he's over just smiling.
Hey, Farron, thank you for being on the show.
Appreciate it.
You're such an ass.
I'll get to tell you. Listen, Joel was my soldier, right?
No.
Yeah, he was my soldier in the Army. He and I served in Iraq together. We were in Germany together. Trust me, I can tell you stories about this guy that would make you laugh.
Oh my God. I can. I would believe every word too.
Listen. I was on CQ one time. He come up there. I'm telling you, I could just tell you stories, man. But we were in a unit that was not the greatest unit in the world. They were out to kill everybody, and we survived. And I hadn't seen him in 20 years until one day I flew into Denver for
Come
something.
on.
Yeah, he met me at the airport, and we had Subway, and we sat there. And 20 years, it's been 20 years since we saw each other. Yeah, we both got injured about the same time in Iraq. We both, retired from the Army and stuff. And so he was one of those soldiers that you sit there and go, take that hill, and he wouldn't even ask you why. He'd be like, okie dokie. Like, wait, there's 200 enemy up there. So, but great guy. So that's how. And then I said, I needed something. I told him one day, I text messaged him. I said, I need this show, man. I need to be on. It helps me. It helps me with my mental health. And he was like, absolutely, let's do it. So
for sure.
Love him. I love him like a play cousin.
Yeah. He's a good guy,
Well,
man.
For everybody else, once again, Veterans Talk every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, as they all say, we're here for you, not for us, giving our veterans a voice.
Thanks for joining us on Veterans Talk with yours truly and Dozier and H-Train. Have a great, happy 4th of July, celebrating the 249th and the countdown to the 250-year anniversary of our nation, 1776, becoming a nation. And listen, we're all truly blessed to be here. Till we meet again, have a safe and happy 4th of July. Don't eat too much. Stay away from fireworks. It'll hurt you. And God bless everybody.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.